Hello everyone, I'm Richard Nance with your Defensive Tactics Technique of the Week. Today we're going to be examining the rear wrist lock and the twist lock. Okay Frank, deciding whether or not to use a control hold is based on the situation. I mean, it may be that if I know you're going to be in handcuffs, I may tell you turn around, put your hands behind your back. Now, I'm in essence challenging you to do that because I've exerted no authority on you other than my badge and the authority of my office. But you could run, you could fight, there's a lot of things you could do, but at least I'll do that from a safe distance where I will have some indication as to whether or not you're going to resist. Right. Another way is to use control holds. And aside from that, which control holds do you use? I mean, it's good to know some control holds because, quite frankly, you may start to go hands-on with someone and the fight may be on. So if you have a control hold, it may help you get the person into a position where you can handcuff them on the ground or whatever. But again, control holds are not to be used when someone's trying to punch you in the face. But right, let's take a look at two commonly used control holds and we'll kind of examine the pros and cons. One of them is a twist lock, which there's a few different ways you can achieve it, but essentially you're grabbing here and starting to twist. Your second hand is also twisting, and ultimately what you want is this kind of position here. What some people refer to it as a gentle C. I'm also using his pinky here as kind of a trigger there, and you could feel basically all the slack is taken out of your arm that way, right? Yep. Now it's a pretty good technique. I mean, some people like to use this to do some basic cursory searching and stuff like that.
Not a fan.
The problem is this technique doesn't afford you a lot of control over his mobility. In other words, if Frank starts walking around, I'm basically going to be chasing him, trying to maintain this control hold. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't restrict his movement as much as I would like. But it's very easy to apply handcuffs from the twist lock. So some people prefer that. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm not a fan of the twist lock. If you can't, and the cumulative locking that occurs up to the shoulder, if you can't get me into a position where my shoulder's forced to roll forward and I have zero mobility in my arm anyway, I don't think you're in control. I think you're shaking my hand in a way that gives you the fiction of control.
I mean, another way to look at it too is here I have two hands on you, where's your other hand? Right? I mean, that's always a consideration. So,
and you're obviously within arm's reach.
There are some people who are very proficient with this technique. I'm not saying it's completely impractical, but the vast majority of our officers use a rear wrist lock, and we should probably show that next.
Okay.
So we'll show that from this angle because it's going to be a little easier for them to see. A rear wrist lock, what we're doing is essentially establishing control just as with the twist lock, but from here, I'm able to limit his mobility. So he can resist, he can try to walk all over the place, but all I got to do is really cinch that in. I don't know if you guys heard that, but a little grunt came out of him there. So what's happening here is I'm creating this pressure here, and if I don't have this against my body, he can simply pull free and try to take me down or whatever he's going to do. So it's important that I'm up here, I got this in tight, and I have this here. Again, if he tries to punch me, I just can duck my head here and just crank this and probably do quite a bit of damage to his arm. So he really has nothing he can do to escape from this. I mean,
there's really not. The arm's not going anywhere.
And then one consideration though is I can't see his front waistband, so I would never allow him to keep that other hand down there. So what I'm going to do is order him through pain and compliance to put that hand on your head and make sure that's up there. Then from there you can go into some handcuffing techniques. But again, I'm more of a fan of the rear wrist lock because it enables you to restrict the suspect's movement.
But your security and your success stems from the very first contact and the fold of the wrist. If the wrist doesn't get that hyper fold in it as you tuck,
exactly.
If you leave the wrist unsecured, you just have an arm bar.
And let's show that kind of slowly so they can see. What we're doing is we're coming in this way, gripping here, also like pulling at the crook of the elbow and taking this up here just like this where I'm in control of his fingers there and can apply pressure. It's pretty...
it doesn't take a lot of pressure to put a lot of discomfort.
Exactly. And one thing to remember about pain compliance techniques is he may not be resistive, but if you go cranking on that full throttle,
you can make him fight.
Exactly. You can actually prompt a more violent response from him than maybe you otherwise would have received. So you really got to find what's that point there where it hurts or it doesn't, and how do you find that? By not only asking, hey Frank, does that hurt? But letting Frank do the technique on me, which we'll save that for another segment.
Exactly. I was sure we would.